Yo, hey, what's up? It's Jason. I am back again with a video, and this is going to be my best of finds for 2024. It's where I'm going to round up all the stuff, well, the choice stuff that I got from this year. Now, let's just say it was kind of a big year in terms of shopping. Picked up about 382 records in 2024, and that doesn't include 33 7 inches. I'm not even sure where the hell all those went, and two 10 inches this past year. So there's always a 10 inch that ends up showing its rearing its head. And CD wise, I think, well, let me just check. Right. So CD wise, picked up 130 CDs last year. Now, out of the 130, 90 plus were metal CDs. I picked up 8 electronic IDM CDs, 20 punk alternative CDs, 1 rock 80s pop, and 5 jazz, soul, or hip hop CDs. Variety there. Needless to say, of the 130, the bulk of them were metal CDs. Of cassettes, I mentioned I got 36 tapes, 26 were metal related, some OGs and some newer stuff, 3 experimental tapes, and 6 punk cassettes. Of the records I got last year, 382, 73 actually were techno related or electronic. So I actually bought more electronic music than metal, as you will see. I got 50 industrial records or synth related, 51 metal records, new, used, or reissue, 50 punk, hardcore, or alternative records, about 35 disco or funk records, 35 house records, 16 jazz, and 8 hip hop classics. I am surprised actually that I picked up 8 hip hop records because I don't usually buy a lot of hip hop records per year because I already own quite a bit of what I already want in terms of the golden era, etc. So anyway, after giving you guys all those stats, I'm just going to run through these quickly just to get through them. I'm going to show you first up the OGs that I picked up, including Grails, and then I'm going to finish off with some of the amazing reissues and newer records that I picked up this past year. So, kicking things off, I got a couple of records down in New York at the New York Art Book Fair, which is kind of an odd place to be picking up vinyl. It is a book fair after all, but it's really cool, like indie DIY publishing, many floors of which. It's an annual event, the New York Art Book Fair, and I do like to try to make it down there. They also have some great collections as well. So some people are selling like old school OG posters, rarities, and some vinyl too. And this was one of the ones that was in this guy's stack. I got actually 3 records from this one seller. This is the Kalahari Surfers record from 1985, I believe. Living in the Heart of the Beast. So these guys are pretty obscure. 80s project from South Africa, actually, and kind of experimental post-punk, if you will. There's a bit of samples in here. Critical, obviously, of the government at the time. So some really cool, interesting takes. Side one kicks off with Dance of the Young Fascists, for example, and continues on from there. Kalahari Surfers, you don't see these guys mentioned too much in the VC, and it was kind of like just the name came to my mind, but I hadn't really thought of this band or seen any vinyl in quite a long time. Now, another thing I got last year, very early on in the year actually, this is a jazz record that was kind of playing in the background here. Oh, it's still going. But some avant-garde jazz, free jazz, if you will. Picked up this really early in the year last year in January. This is Roscoe Mitchell with Anthony Braxton doing duets on Sackville. Canadian label. But you can see from the sticker, the HMV sticker, that was a UK price tag. This came out, I think, sometime in the 80s as well. It's really minimalist, avant-garde free jazz. It's literally just these 2 guys recording in the studio, and 4 cuts in total. Really fun piece of music, and yeah, gets the odd play here and there throughout the year. Always into it whenever I throw it on the turntable. I mentioned earlier I did pick up some hip-hop this past year, and one OG I finally snatched a copy of. I bit the bullet and decided to finally pick it up because it was something I needed to have in the collection for many years. I've only got like odds and sods here and there, a couple singles. And that's it. I didn't have the full-length album of Biz Markie's Goin Off, his debut album. This is classic golden era, 1980s hip-hop, killer record. I'm sure it went gold status, if not more. And it was out on Cold Chillin' back in the day. Now, Cold Chillin' is pretty bad for reissuing stuff, and you don't even see reissues of this that often. This is an OG press. Kind of a weird backstory to this one. I'll leave it to another video, but it came from the US seller on Discogs. Not exactly mint condition, and I did have to pay quite a bit for it, but nevertheless, I've got it in the collection now. So, Biz Markie was in there. Now, let's move into some punk territory. I also got some metal records to show as well. Surprise, surprise. But one more record from that seller I was telling you about earlier with the Kalahari Surfers. He also had a copy of this sitting in the bin, which came home with me. Really love this record. Been playing this all year round pretty much since I got it, well, in last May, last April, last spring. This is Mars 78. This is some no-wave post-punk band. This is actually on Lydia Lunch's record label, Widow Speak. And I had never actually seen this record at all. This is actually the UK pressing of it, and distributed through Rough Trade. 1986 release from Mars. Again, really fast-paced, kind of no-wave. A little bit of noise rock aspect going on as well. And I had only seen really Mars on some compilations I had from the New York no-wave scene. I hadn't really seen the full-length album, so I was glad to snatch that up. Now, over here on the Canadian side of the border, I have picked up quite a bit of OG presses, including Grails even. A lot of them picked up in Toronto at some record fairs, sometimes at record shops, and a couple things I got at the fairs. I did pick up all my Talking Heads records that I wanted to get, pretty much. All the early ones from the 70s and early 80s, I've pretty much got OG copies of now. But also, while I was going through, I managed to snag a couple of OG copies of The Damned. These aren't first presses, maybe, but they are earlier presses, and pretty nice ones. This one's a Frontier pressing, US pressing of The Damned debut album. I only had like a very heavy-duty 180-gram reissue, which I played to death. My favorite Damned album, really. But then I also found a copy of the second Damned album, which is this one, Music for Pleasure. This definitely does not look like a Damned album or a punk rock album necessarily. It kind of looks like a new wave album, if you will. This is the inner sleeve for that. Cool record. Doesn't have as many vital hits, I find, as the other ones, but nice to finally get a copy of this in the collection. So a couple of Damned records picked up, and now two OGs that were absolutely grails. I got about 3 or 4 grails here to show you before we get into the reissues. This is something I've been trying to track down since, I don't know, decades. Used to own this record when I was a kid. Sold it off mistakenly in a kind of a big collection sell-off, and really happy that I finally got pretty much the exact same copy back. This is the US or Canadian pressing, rather, of the second album by The Cramps, Psychedelic Jungle. And I've literally been looking for this for years, if not decades. Going in record shops, always asking, do you have The Cramps? Yeah, we have like tons of Cramps, right? They always have like bootlegs, live concerts, compilations, etc. But they never seem to have a copy of Psychedelic Jungle. Even reissues are pretty hard to come by. But I really wanted this version with the green lettering, and I found it. So this is what my IRS labels look like. So really happy to get this. This, of course, has the Goo Goo Muck track on it, and it's an OG in the collection now. Next up, from a local seller who just happens to have a pretty wicked metal collection. He's even got some stuff signed, etc., selling some signature copies. This is not signed, but my reissue copy of this is signed. Anyway, I had to get an OG copy of Venom's. It's at War with Satan. This is the first super full length, epic, I want to say epic, black metal release because of the entire side that's taken up with the title track. This is like their third album. It's kind of ballsy at the time to do, and it's a lot of fun. Definitely Venom, one of my favorite bands. You've got the original inner sleeve here. Pretty sick. And because we ain't messing around, it is a Bonsai Canadian edition. And Bonsai is a label that is really well coveted by many metal collectors, myself included. So I was happy to grab this. It was funny because I actually saw it at a metal market, and I didn't pick it up right away, but I contacted the seller and we were able to meet up. So it was nice to get an OG copy of that classic Venom record. I have a reissue of it, and I got it signed actually by Mantis, I think. I was the only original member from Venom Inc. that signed it. Another classic from the 80s, crossover territory, and what I think is their best album, bar none. I don't like the later stuff at all. I always like the early COC, Corrosion of Conformity. This is Animosity. Really sick to get the OG of this, and it wasn't too pricey. I think I picked this up last summer at maybe Rotate This over in Toronto. And this is a US pressing, I think, because of the Death labels. This one and Technocracy, the EP that followed, are pretty much all the COC that I want to have. After that, they kind of went into this more, I don't know what you want to say, southern influenced metal style. A little bit of 90s alternative grunge influence. Okay, this is straight up hardcore thrash. Crossover in the Face. Something that just recently came across my radar shopping again in Toronto. Happened to see this hanging on the wall, and this is a grail in a sense because I really needed to get this for a long time. I have like the album after this, the What's This For by Killing Joke, but this is the debut. This is the self-titled debut. Legendary band, obviously very influential, doing a lot of fusion of different sounds from post-punk, dark gothic post-punk into industrial metal. Just a killer band, essential band really for any collector. If you're into metal, if you're into industrial, if you're into post-punk, punk, I think you're probably already into Killing Joke, or you should be. You should definitely check them out. That debut album is solid, and it was pretty nice price too, only $40 for a nice OG copy. Speaking of grails, and I just showed this in a recent video, I had to get this. I couldn't believe my luck. My luck finally came up for a pretty decent price. Again, this is like a VG Plus. It's not, super minty copy, but it's a Canadian press and it's early. And I mean, singles by Skinny Puppy sometimes go for $80 or $100. So this is the Bites album, full length. Pretty much my first Skinny Puppy. My introduction to Skinny Puppy was this album I had on cassette, and it's kind of my favorite overall. I do like the first 3-4 records. They all are amazing. They all have great songs. So this is actually a second pressing. It's not the first pressing, but it's a 1986 second pressing of the first album-ish, because there's that EP before. So Skinny Puppy Bites. Just trying to run through these fast as I can here. 2 more OGs to show you. 3 or 4 more. And then we'll go quickly into some of the reissue territory. Also recently picked this up. Showed this just recently. Buzzcocks. Sound in a Different Kitchen. Another Music in a Different Kitchen. Great album. Fast Cars is on this. And Fiction Romance. No Reply. A lot of really great songs by Buzzcocks. This is kind of OG in a way. It's from 2014. It's a newer thing, but Richard H Kirk's solo record. He has many, but this is a solo EP. Just a 4-tracker on minimal wave. It's kind of nice to pick up. Finally decided to grab a copy of this. This is not rare by any means, but it was cheap. Get for like $10. Forged in Fire. This is Anvil's 3rd album. A pretty killer one to have. I always have metal on metal, so it's nice to get the follow-up after that. And last but not least, for OGs, the OG of them all, maybe. What a granddaddy grail here, but it's a little bit beaten up, but man, I had to grab it. Destruction's debut EP, Sentence of Death. I got the reissue. It's got a different cover. It is totally killer. It's a really nice reissue, but I always wanted to get that original, right? And guess what? It's the Bonsai edition too. It's the Canadian pressing. You got the old school speed metal logo. But yeah, some pretty gnarly chunk out of there. Anyway, plays pretty good, and it is totally a sick EP. The red print, the Bonsai. Destruction's still going on, still going strong, just like the next album I'm going to show, next band I'm going to show. Also part of the German 3 of killer thrash metal. And yeah, nice to get that Destruction. Alright, so moving on to some reissues and such that I found this past year that I have played a lot. For example, even though I got this one fairly recently, like last month, I've been giving this a few spins. This is that classic Sodom album from the 90s, I think, 1992. This originally came out. Tapping the Vein. Very difficult to find the OG, if at all. I don't even know if they put out a vinyl of it originally. Maybe it was only a CD release because it was the 90s. This is the deluxe album that has a second vinyl that's pretty much unnecessary. The second vinyl is like a redo. Well, it's not a redo. It's just a mix. So they've adjusted different things in the mix, so the vocals are a little bit more louder, etc. But I'll go with the original mix on this thing. It's a remaster, but it's really killer. Just recently found this in the wild locally. This hasn't been shown on any of my videos yet, but it is a killer. Behemoth, an early Behemoth, like talking first or second EP or something, but this is from 1995, I believe. This is a 2013 reissue on Polish label, Metal Mind Records, and it's a pretty nice edition. Inner sleeve too. Now, I'm not really a big fan of their current stuff too much, but this hits pretty right. Good old school second wave black metal before they get a little bit more death metal, I guess. So from Poland, Behemoth. This is the And the Forest Dream Eternally album. Recent pickup. Also recently got this reissue. This compilation 80s synthwave band. I showed this recently as well. This is Psyche, Canadian band from Saskatchewan, I think, originally. Or no, sorry, Edmonton. And this is their dedication to Dwayne Goddell, remembering Dwayne, who was also a member of Skinny Puppy, and briefly a member of Psyche as well. So these are tracks that he recorded with them and reissued by Dark Entries. But originally this comp came out 2010. This is a 2014 reissue. It was a good find this year. Something, I'm not sure if I've shown this yet on video or not, because I recently just picked this up, but this has been a really cool find this year. Some psych rock from 1969. This record is extremely rare to find. The original, if at all. I think the OG sells for $1,500 to $2,000. $1,500 to $2,000. I'll take the reissue for $40-50 instead. This is A Trip Through Hell by CA Quintet. As far as I know, maybe a one and done. I don't think they had any other records. But a really cool record. Kind of plays almost like a soundtrack. It's got instrumental passages, etc. Pretty nice. Okay, just a few more reissues to show you guys from this year's haul. Just recently found this sitting in the wild. I didn't even know that this was reissued, and I kind of, to be honest, forgot about this album. Sorry about all this crazy glare on this thing, but this is Violent Femmes' second album, the follow-up to the big debut. This is 1984's Hollowed Ground. It's kind of an ugly orange vinyl, not splatter, but smoky vinyl pressing, I guess, on Craft. Some people online have complained about this pressing, that's a little bit loud, etc., or noisy, but so far it works for me. These songs are just so good. Country death songs on here. Totally forgot about all these tracks. Underrated band, right? Violent Femmes, really good album. I don't think the OG is impossible to find, so I'm going to keep an eye out for the OG. I actually picked up a Violent Femmes this past year. I think I picked up the third album reissue. Now some metal territory and a band I didn't even know about, a 90s band, some brutal thrash from Invocator. This one, total banger. Had bought this first on CD, the reissue, and quickly got the vinyl as well. It was that good. They're coming out of Denmark, so some Danish death metal thrash, brutal thrash. If you want to get in those categories, they're kind of bridging, I guess, from thrash into death metal. And just a great record. Played that a lot this year, so I had to show that. Invocator. Am I saying it the right way this time, Invocator? I know I had said Incubator at one point, but Excursion Demise, name of the album. Next up, from Greece, some Blackened Territory, Rotting Christ. This is, I think, the debut album by these guys. This came out in '93. It is super raw black metal. Doesn't get better than Greek usually for metal, black metal. So this is kind of the real deal. This is a double record. Peaceville put out this reissue a little while back, and I happened to pick it up this year finally. But this actually came out in 2023. It looks like The Mighty Contract, great album. Live, this got some bonus live stuff on this, I guess. Yeah, the first album is the album. The second one, sorry, is this tour right there, 1993. So, Rotting Christ, that is a killer record. Reissue pickup on Peaceville. Next up, from the 90s again. I've been kind of like digging really deep on 90s death metal, all the metal, underground metal stuff that I missed out in the 90s, and finding some great stuff definitely along the way, including this one here, Prophecy of Doom. I think I got this on CD first, the reissue. Again, Peaceville, and then snatched it up on vinyl as well. This was a 2022 reissue of this classic. Acknowledge the Confusion Master, cult classic 1990 debut studio album from pioneering UK grind/death metal, Prophecy of Doom. Now getting into some of that like heavy brutal thrash, if you will, leaning into death metal, Demolition Hammer. Also picked up that reissue this year. This is Tortured Existence, the debut from 1990. That's a sick one. And another one that I've been playing a lot this year. Some death metal slash thrash from San Francisco, Hex. And this is one that I have not seen a lot in the VC, but really should be picked up and shown more often. This is a Svart Finnish reissue. It's been reissued a couple times, I think, over the years. 1991 it originally came out, and this is a 2022 reissue. Two more to go. Great finds of the year. Thor's Hammer. I think last year, 2023, I picked up the reissue on CD. This year I decided to go ahead and pick it up on vinyl. Different cover than my CD version, but what can you say with this legendary record? Most people know it by now, I guess. I don't know. It's Death Doom from 1996, kind of like a side college project, it sounds like. Stephen O'Malley and from Sun, and a foreign exchange student doing like brutal death metal vocals, or is it the higher pitch vocals? It's on Southern Lord, and her name is Runhild Gemaster. Gemelstar. I'm not saying that right, but I think she's still doing some stuff, some experimental recordings, etc. This is a total classic from 1996, and I just picked this up and I had to include it in the video. It is that good. Really killer live album. I don't buy a lot of live records at all, let alone live metal records, but this is a double vinyl edition. And it's pretty much the Exodus release for 2024. 2023, 2024, we get this live album on Nuclear Blast. This is the British Disaster, and it's a live concert from 1989, recorded in the UK at the London Astoria, March 8th, 1989. Spread over 4 sides of vinyl. I think in this case, no, gold. The gold to match the album cover. I mean, it does match, but you know me with colored vinyl. I hate it. Can't see the tracks very clear in between the tracks, but this is a killer concert. It's got like so much energy. The pressing, I think, sounds really great too. Just kind of jumps off the platter, and so don't sleep on it. Like I would sleep on a lot of live records, but what can you say? Exodus are amazing. I saw them again this past year, and they totally delivered. So those are some of my best finds for 2024. And I ran down the stats at the beginning of this video. Pretty big year of pickups. Check out also my best of 2024 of new releases. Those are not shown here for obvious reasons. And yeah, we'll see what 2025 brings us. More grails, more OGs, more reissues. I might do another video of just best singles that I picked up, because like I did mention at the beginning, I bought about 50, 60 good house and disco and funk records, and about 70 electronic and techno records. So I may do another video of best techno electronic 12-inch finds as well. And for now, that's it. Happy holidays, everybody, and I'll see you guys soon.